You know, my child, when I was young, I used to believe love was always about joy, warmth, and harmony. I thought once you found the right person, life would be like one of those songs you hear under the stars, smooth, endless, and sweet. But life taught me something else. Love, as beautiful as it is, often pulls us toward people and patterns that hurt us. And here's the strangest part. Sometimes, without even realizing it, we crave those very patterns that wound us. Why would anyone love a toxic relationship? Why would anyone keep returning to something that causes pain? That, my dear, is one of the oldest mysteries of the human heart. Plato once said that human beings are drawn toward what they lack. That means our desires often come not from what is healthy for us, but from what feels missing inside us. If a person has never felt secure, they might unconsciously be drawn to someone unpredictable, because unpredictability feels familiar. It's like the mind saying, "This is home," even if that home has broken windows and a leaking roof. Have you ever seen someone who keeps choosing the same type of partner? Someone who lies, cheats, or manipulates, and you wonder, why don't they walk away? It's not that they don't see the pain, it's that their heart has mistaken pain for passion. Science has its own explanation. When you're in a toxic relationship, your brain becomes addicted to the highs and lows, the fights, the reconciliations, the uncertainty. All of these trigger chemicals like dopamine and adrenaline. It's almost like gambling. The unpredictability keeps you hooked, hoping that this time things will change. This time the love will be enough. I remember a young man who once told me, "Grandpa, when she ignored me, I felt miserable. But when she called me again, it was like the sun came out." That rush of relief became his drug. He wasn't just in love with her, he was in love with the cycle of despair and hope. Carl Jung, the great psychologist, spoke of what he called the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves that we often deny. Many times, we fall in love with people who mirror our shadow, who reopen old wounds from childhood. If a child grew up with neglect, they may later find themselves with partners who neglect them too, not because they want to suffer, but because suffering feels familiar. Let me share a story. A woman once told me that every man she dated seemed distant, cold, hard to reach. "Why do I always end up with men like that?" she asked me. After some reflection, she realized her father had been emotionally unavailable his entire life. She was unconsciously chasing the same pattern, hoping that maybe this time she could win the love she never received as a child. That's the cruel trick of toxic love. It makes us believe we are finally rewriting our old story. But in reality, we are just repeating it. The French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once said, "Man is condemned to be free." What he meant is that we are free to choose, but with that freedom comes responsibility. Yet in love, many of us avoid that responsibility. We let our unconscious do the choosing, and our unconscious, my dear, does not always choose wisely. Sometimes we confuse intensity with intimacy. We think, if it hurts this much, it must mean it's real. That's not love. That's our mind tricking us. True intimacy is steady, not stormy. But storms are louder, and we humans, we always listen to the thunder before the gentle rain. Now here's the tricky part. Why don't we admit that we secretly crave toxic relationships? Why do we hide it under excuses like, "But I love them," or "They'll change"? Because admitting the truth would mean admitting that part of the problem lies within us. It would mean facing our emptiness, our insecurities, our unhealed wounds. And most people would rather stay in the comfort of chaos than face the discomfort of self-reflection. I've seen this again and again. A young woman stays with a man who constantly belittles her, and when I ask why, she says, "Because I can't imagine life without him." But what she really means is, I can't imagine facing the silence of being alone with myself. Ah, here's another hook. Toxic relationships keep us because they whisper promises of change. Maybe he'll love me better tomorrow. Maybe she'll finally see my worth. That maybe is what chains us. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once wrote about the concept of despair, the state of being where you're not truly yourself because you live in illusions. Staying in a toxic relationship is a form of despair. We cling not to the person, but to the illusion of who we hope they'll become. Every scar, every wound, every longing in us wants to be healed, and love, even toxic love, feels like a promise of healing. But healing doesn't come from another person repeating our pain. Healing comes when we finally look inward and ask, why do I need this chaos? Why do I mistake pain for love? My child, the first step in breaking free is recognizing that you are in a cycle. A toxic relationship is not always loud with shouting and betrayal. Sometimes it is quiet, subtle, like a slow poison. It's the constant self-doubt, the shrinking of your spirit, the walking on eggshells. You know you're in the cycle when you feel more anxious than safe. You keep justifying their behavior to others. You fear leaving more than you fear staying. And yet, the strangest thing, you also feel addicted to it. Like a moth circling the flame, knowing the fire burns but unable to resist its glow. The philosopher Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." That doesn't mean we shouldn't live if we're confused. It means our life becomes richer when we stop and examine our choices. If you keep falling into toxic love, ask yourself, what am I chasing here? Validation? Excitement? Familiarity? What old wound am I trying to heal through this person? Do I want them? Or do I want the version of me I imagine when I'm with them? You see, the heart doesn't always want love. Sometimes it just wants recognition. And recognition from the wrong person can feel intoxicating. Many stay because they secretly believe they can fix the other. They think, if I just love them enough, they will change. But my dear, people do not change because we suffer for them. People change only when they decide to face themselves. A young man once told me, I stayed with her because I believed my love could heal her anger. After years of torment, he realized it was not love that held him there. It was his ego, the belief that he could be the savior. But love is not about saving. Love is about seeing, truly seeing each other. Let me tell you another truth that many do not like to hear. Sometimes we choose toxic relationships because they feel better than being alone. Loneliness can be louder than pain. But here's the wisdom I've learned with age. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. Being alone can be a sacred time of rediscovering yourself. Loneliness is when you abandon yourself. The German philosopher Nietzsche once said, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. Sometimes the tribe is not a crowd of people, but our own fear of being by ourselves. If you learn to befriend solitude, you will never again settle for toxicity, just to fill the silence." Now let me guide you gently, step by step. Name the pattern. Say it out loud. This is toxic. This is not love. Naming it weakens its power. Silence strengthens it. Reconnect with yourself. Toxic love makes you forget who you are. Write down who you were before this person. What did you enjoy? What dreams did you have? Reclaim those pieces. Set boundaries. A relationship without boundaries is like a house without walls. Anything can walk in and destroy it. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out, but doors that allow the right people in and keep the wrong ones away. Seek wisdom, not just advice. Friends may tell you, just leave. That's easy to say. Wisdom comes from listening to yourself. Ask, does this love make me more alive, or does it make me smaller? Allow the grief. Leaving a toxic relationship doesn't just mean leaving a person. It means grieving the dream you had about them. Redefining love. We must ask ourselves, what is real love? The ancient Greeks had different words for love. Eros, passionate desire. Philia, deep friendship. Agape, unconditional selfless love. Toxic relationships usually trap us in eros, passion without peace. But lasting love is a blend of eros and philia, sprinkled with agape. It is attraction, yes, but also respect, kindness, and growth. True love does not make you question your worth. It makes you remember it. I once knew a woman who stayed with a man who constantly belittled her. She stayed for years, convinced she couldn't do better. One day, she told me, I woke up and realized I would rather live in a small room with peace than a big house with chaos. That was the day she left. Years later, she found a love that was quiet, steady, unremarkable to others. But to her, it was everything. She told me, for the first time, I don't have butterflies, I have roots. The reason I'm telling you all this, my dear, is because life is too short to spend in chains we mistake for jewelry. Toxic relationships often feel shiny on the outside, the drama, the intensity, the thrill. But real love feels like coming home after a long journey. Let me leave you with this thought. The Greek philosopher Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The same is true for love. You will not be free in love until you master your own heart, until you know the difference between passion that burns and passion that warms. So if you find yourself drawn again to a toxic flame, remember, you deserve warmth, not fire. You deserve roots, not storms. You deserve love that heals, not wounds. And when you finally choose that, when you finally choose yourself, you will discover that the most powerful love story was never about chasing someone else. It was about coming home to your own heart. Don't fear leaving what breaks you, my child. Fear staying and forgetting who you are.